The War of 1812. September 1814. The war thus far. September 1814 sees two major battles in the War of 1812, the Battle of Plattsburg and the Battle of Baltimore. I will be covering Baltimore/Fort McHenry in this video, but we'll leave Plattsburg for a separate upload, for while it is, in my opinion, a lesser-known battle, it was an engagement of great significance. In today's upload, I will discuss all the other things that happened in September 1814, almost said 1812, September 1814, as listed in my treasure, D.R. Westhouse's unpublished The War of 1812, a chronology of the military actions 1812 to 1815. So here goes nothing. Much of September's action focuses on Maine, which the British hoped to conquer to provide a land link between the colonies of New Brunswick and Lower Canada, present-day Quebec. On September 1st, a British flotilla arrives off Castine, Maine, site of Fort Madison, a 4-gun redoubt. The commander, Lieutenant Andrew Lewis, who has 40 regulars plus 100 volunteers, fires a token shot, spikes his gun, and then blows up the fort before retreating. The British have the fort, but what they really want is the Adams, an American frigate undergoing repairs in Hamden, Maine. Captain Robert Barry and Lieutenant Colonel Henry Johns lead a force of 700 to take the ship. On September 3rd, in fog and rain, the British break through the American defenses, losing one man, the Americans 30 to 40. But in the end, they lose the prize, as the Adams is blown up by its crew before it can be captured. The British chase the local militiamen to Bangor, where they demand the town's unconditional surrender. Machias, the last remaining American stronghold, surrenders on September the 11th. The British will remain in the area until Maine is returned to the U.S. as part of the Treaty of Ghent. But border issues between Maine and New Brunswick will linger till the 1840s. Following the burning of the schooner Nancy at the mouth of the Nottawasaga River on August the 14th, the ship's commander, Miller Wolseley, and crew traveled in open boats all the way to Mackinac Island, arriving on the 31st. They traveled from Wasaga Beach to Mackinac Island in open boats. Unbelievable! Learning that the ships that helped destroy the Nancy, the Tigress, and the Scorpion are in the vicinity of St. Joseph's Island, Miller and Lieutenant Andrew Bulger of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment set out to take them. On September 3rd, USS Tigress is taken while at anchor in Detour Passage, and on the 6th, the British used the captured schooner to take Scorpion. The Nancy is revenged. After the burning of Washington, the next big target for the British, Coburn, Cochrane, Ross and Company, is Baltimore. On the morning of the 12th, at North Point, at the mouth of the Patapsco River, Ross begins landing troops for an assault on the city, while Cochrane's fleet sallies forth to assault Fort McHenry. Ross and Coburn set out with the British light troops to reconnoiter the American position and encounter an advance force of the 3,200 men under the command of General John Stricker. Whilst directing troops, Ross is shot from his horse and fatally wounded. Colonel Arthur Brooke assumed command and ordered an immediate assault, but Stricker's men largely hold until driven back to the city by the sheer weight of British numbers. That night, the British camp out on the battlefield. The Americans have lost 24 dead and 139 wounded, with 50 taken prisoner. The Redcoats, 46 killed and 295 injured. But their greatest loss was General Robert Ross. The attack resumed at dawn the next morning as Admiral Cochrane's ships began bombarding Fort McHenry. On land, Colonel Brooke finds the Americans hidden behind entrenched and well-fortified positions, and as Cochrane had advised him not to attack unless sure of success, he chooses discretion over valor, and at 2 a.m. on September 14th, having learned of Cochrane's failure to reduce the fort, Brooke orders a retreat, but they leave their campfires burning to fool the Yanks. As for the Royal Navy, Cochrane's fleet began to bombard Fort McHenry at dawn on the 13th, a bombardment that would continue until 7 a.m. on the 14th, during which time they fired over 1,500 rockets and shells, but were unable to inflict any serious damage. Return fire by the Americans was also ineffective, but prevented the British ships from drawing closer to the fort, where the naval guns might have been more lethal. In the end, the Americans lose 4 dead and 24 wounded, but gain a national anthem. Lawyer Francis Scott Key had gone to the British on September 7th to secure the release of William Beans, whom they had arrested, and while he was successful, both Key, Bean, and a third man, Colonel John Stuart Skinner, were retained in British custody to prevent them giving any information on the forthcoming attack to their fellow countrymen. As a result, they had front row seats for the bombardment of Fort McHenry, which inspired Key to write a poem he called The Defense of Fort McHenry. Set to the tune of an English drinking song, To Anacreon in Heaven, you all know it better as the Star-Spangled Banner, which became the American national anthem in 1931. Thus, the British failed to take Baltimore. They failed to take Plattsburg, too. September wasn't turning out to be a good month for the British Army or Royal Navy. That must have been one of those delayed shells. So what else happened? On September the 1st, the USS Wasp sinks HMS Avon and makes a narrow escape when attacked by other British vessels. The Wasp itself will be lost at sea, its last contact with a Swedish ship, October 9th, after which it vanishes. Late in the summer of 1814, Major Zachary Taylor led an American force of 350 men to retake Fort Shelby at Prairie du Chien in today's Wisconsin. Early on September 5th, they are ambushed by a British and native warrior force of over 1,000, while at anchor off Credit Island at the mouth of the Rock River. Outnumbered and outgunned, hey, the British have artillery, the Americans elect to retreat downriver, where they establish a post at the mouth of the Des Moines River, which is soon abandoned. Zachary Taylor would go on to lead troops in the Black Hawk and Seminole Wars, as well as in the Mexican War. He also became the 12th President of the U.S. On September 14th and 15th, the British launched both land and naval assaults against Fort Boyer at the opening of Mobile Bay in present-day Alabama. But despite being outnumbered 10-1, the Yanks hold and the British withdraw, having suffered over 30 dead and the loss of a ship, the 22-gun HMS Hermes. On the 16th, an American force dispatched from New Orleans successfully raids the pirate. That's right, pirate. The pirate lair on Grande Terre in the Bay of Barataria, headquarters of the infamous Jean Lafitte. As the pirates refused to take up arms against the U.S., the raid is a success and collects 80 prisoners, 8 prize vessels, and goods worth $500,000. Imagine that in today's money. Unbelievable. Finally, on the 26th, the Royal Navy succeeds, at a heavy cost, in destroying the American privateer, General Armstrong, which is scuttled by its crew to prevent it falling into British hands. This action takes place at the neutral port of Fayal in the Azores. The Azores. Who says the War of 1812 was a strictly North American war? Thus, September sees British setbacks at Plattsburg and Baltimore. Please stay tuned for my upcoming video on Plattsburg, which I will publish as soon as I am able. If this is your first visit to 1812 channel, my name is Warren and I'm your host. I'm not a historian, nor am I an expert on the War of 1812. Instead, I'm a student wishing to learn about the conflict. Each month for the roughly 3 years of the war, I will outline the major events, and I will also attempt to review a book on the war. Did I miss anything? Any errors? Then let me know in the comments below. When the barrage lifts, cheers. Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pixier, that's PX here, while the music was the stirring Prelude and Action by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod.